Greetings, Diski fam. Welcome to another episode of the Sisonke Diski Chat. My name is Len Muleko, and this is a show where we talk everything there is to talk about with regards to South African football. Today is no different, and today we're taking a slightly different approach. It has come to the end of the season, and the people that probably do the hardest work during a season are people that actually look after the team. And today we actually have such gentlemen joining us, and I'm going to start closest to me, Coach Cavin Johnson. Welcome to the Sisonke Diski Chat.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you. And Coach Roger Desar, welcome to the Sisonke Diski Chat.
Great to be here, thank you.
All right, gentlemen. Obviously the season locally is pretty much done. We've seen what has unfolded. What have you made with this current season, just overall, from what we saw on the field, fans coming back towards the latter stages, fans not having been there in the earlier parts of the season? I'll start with you, Coach. Yes.
I think when you look at South African football, it's been a little bit crazy. There's been lots of starting with who's not knowing who's promoted, who's going to be promoted, who's deducting points. And then closer towards the middle of the season, you had the COVID scare where I think Kaizer Chiefs had 2 games postponed. And then of course you have the runaway winners, which right through the season no one would compete with them, which is Sundowns. And so for me, it's a bit of a craziness now. And even now, you don't know who's second, because Pirates still have 2 games in hand, and Cape Town City is waiting there, and so is Steady's waiting as well, I think, as to whether they end up second or not. And I don't think Royal AM is in with a chance, but the 2 teams, Cape Town City and Royal AM, they not Royal AM, Cape Town City and Steady's could be number 2. And then of course everything else that goes with it, the fact that Sundowns didn't make it to the group stages, or after the group stages in CAF, and Pirates went and lost in the final, which is, for me, I think they should have won it.
And I actually wanted to get into that. Coach Roger, you've been in that situation before, where the team went all the way to the final. Does it disturb you when you have to balance playing domestically and playing on the continent? How easy is it to find that balance and make sure that the motivation on one end is the same on the other?
It takes a massive amount of strain on the team. I don't think people realize how much it takes out of the team. I think it's more about the traveling and the time you spend away from your country that takes more away from it. And we only really realize it sort of weeks into the season or months into the season, when you start to play games and you start catching up and you fall behind. You start to realize that your squad is not that good or that strong. You don't have enough depth. Because those games in Africa do drain you. As much as you just think it's just a 90-minute football match, it isn't. There's a lot of traveling. Unfortunately, look, we're not living in Europe where we take a 1-hour flight and you're in the country next to you, or you charter a flight. In Africa, sometimes you're taking 3 flights over 2 days to reach a destination to play a football match in a remote area, which you don't know what your next meal is going to be. And people forget that. Those factors come to play. And that is why the teams with more resources financially, like Sundowns or Ahly, they can get away with it because they have enough resources to get into top hotels, charter a flight directly, bring the chef, bring the food. And I think it starts to show. If you don't have that, you're going to struggle. And I think clubs like Stellenbosch and Cape Town City, if they are going to be playing in Africa, it takes a lot to get ready for it. And financially, it takes a big knock as well. You're going to use up a lot of your resources to try and compete in Africa, not knowing how far you're going to go and what you can achieve. And you don't really get a lot of support locally for African competitions either. You asked the question about Kevin, the crowds coming back. I think that's one of the factors I found in South Africa. The crowds never came back after COVID, and I think that's a bit of a worrying factor. I watched Chiefs play, I watched Pirates play. The crowds were never the same as 5-6 years ago, even longer than that. And I think that's a worrying factor for our game.
The interesting thing, you actually just mentioned it now, and I wanted to ask Coach Kevin, in terms of looking at how serious teams are starting to take the African competition, be it the Champions League or the Confed Cup. I was going to ask if they are resourced well enough. I mean, Stellenbosch, like Coach Roger said, Royal AM are also knocking on the door. I mean, we've seen the Supersport United do it, Orlando Pirates do it, Mamelodi Sundowns, Kaizer Chiefs recently doing it. Is there room for other teams to actually also find that when you play those competitions, they actually put you amongst the best in the continent?
Look, for me, that has been there and sort of felt the thing there, Roger just alluded to it. You've got to prepare your team. You've got to prepare them 5 years in advance, 3 years in advance as to what you want to do in Africa and how you're going to do it in Africa. And the biggest thing that takes the biggest knock for me is the financial part of it, that how you prepare them, how you get your team to be sponsored properly in order to play in these competitions. And the next best thing is the mentality of our players. The diversity we have in our country at the moment is not yet there. We don't have enough history in a lot of the teams that push the players to play in the Champions League. Because the Champions League is something that you've got to be proud of, to play in it. And like Roger said, your Ahlys, your Al Hilals, your Wydad Casablancas, your Rajas, your Esperance, those are people who thrive on that. And the nation understands what it is to play in the Champions League. The Champions League is a fantastic competition, but you've got to prepare properly for it. It's not, I want to be second this year or I want to be first and next year I want to play Champions League and I want to win it. You're never going to win it. The Egyptians have not got it now for 10 times for next to nothing.
And sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but hence the preparation right now. He just mentioned that the clubs don't know yet who's going to play in the Champions League. And that is a factor that it's going to disturb your preparation. So right now, Stellenbosch are sitting down there going, are we going to play in the Champions League or not? Or the next competition that's, what is it? I don't even know what it's called.
No,
the
Confed Cup.
Yeah. Are they going to play in it or not? Same as Cape Town City. I know I'm good friends with some of the guys at Cape Town City, and they're sitting waiting. Who do they sign? Who do they release? And contracts are going up now. End of the month, there's clause in contracts. Do we renew? Do we release? And they don't even know what to do. And we don't know who's going to play in the Champions League. So how does a team like Cape Town City prepare a team to compete in the Champions League if they don't know if they're in it or not? Certain players are going, do I stay here? Do you going to renew my contract? And they're going, well, if we're in the Champions League, we might need you. If we're not in the Champions League, we don't need you. So what do? They have to wait for the PSL to end and then try and prepare the best they can to compete in this competition, which is a difficult competition because they also play at different times. There are times when we're off and they start to play and things like that. So that disturbs all those factors. And that is, it's not helping the South African clubs either. Hence, Sundowns do well because they have 30, 40 quality players, not 30, 40 players, 30, 40 quality players. And hence they can rotate a little bit and they've got the financial sort of backing as well. We all know that. So hence probably Sundowns is probably the only club who's prepared right now to compete in this tournament and compete well and compete in all fronts. Yeah. You don't just want to compete in the Champions League. You want to be like the Halalis or in Sundowns. They have a go at all the tournaments. No different to Liverpool, Man City and the bigger clubs in Europe.
Now, Coach Kevin, you've been in the helm at one of the biggest clubs in the continent, at Ahly. How is their preparation for a season? How do they approach competitions versus what you've experienced from a South African point of view?
Like Roger alluded to it, they have the best players. And the fact that they have a 109-year history behind them, there's so much culture and so much that comes along with playing for Ahly. Just playing for Ahly and you is very important. So when you do come there, you must be prepared to know that not only for the Champions League, but for the local league, you got to pull your finger. You got to know that you're in this team to win everything. Because that's what they've been doing for the last 60, 70 years. And then, of course, they also have 60 million people behind them that push them all the time. And Roger will tell you, he worked for the national team. My friend, the media is unlimited. It's crazy. The way the media hounds you, the way the media pushes you all the time. We have this interview now, I think if Roger was in Egypt and he qualified for AFCON, he would have a media thing every second day or every day. There'd be people after him. You can't walk in the place. But that is the culture that we need to get. That is the culture that we had. I think, like Roger said, the COVID, the fans have disappeared.
Yeah.
Chiefs was once upon a time, I know, and there was a stat that they were one of the biggest teams in the world. Why? Because wherever they went in South Africa, they could draw a crowd of 50,000 to the stadium. I don't think they can draw 5,000 now, wherever they went. And this was maybe 15 years ago, where they could go anywhere in South Africa and they would draw a crowd of 40, 50,000 into the stadium. It doesn't happen anymore. And that is what we need to get the players understand that playing for Chiefs, Roger was at Pirates, playing for Pirates, it's not a normal club. It's a club where for 8 months of your life, it's football. There's no Instagram, there's no TikTok, there's no, there's nothing like that at Ahly. Ahly players they're too scared to go on social media for fear that there's 60 million people telling them that, you played last week, but you played real bad. You played so bad, we don't want to see you in the street. And this is what our players don't really feel or don't really have.
Yeah.
Is that pressure that playing for the big clubs is all about.
Now, Coach Roger, you actually got to the final of the Champions League with Orlando Pirates. At the time, you were still playing 2 legs in the final.
Yeah.
And now the system has sort of like changed. You only play a once-off final. And supposedly they choose neutral venues, but yeah, the reports that have happened over the past couple of weeks.
It's called CAF, yeah.
Yes.
It's called CAF.
Do you think 2-legged final works versus the 1-legged final?
Well, if you're not going to have a neutral venue, then rather have a 2-legged final. I think right now, Ahly are we're rather going to 2-legged final. But having said that, I'll be honest with you, I watched the Pirates game against the Moroccan team now in this final that's just got played. And it was in a neutral venue. It was in Nigeria. We all saw that. Good crowd. It was a pretty big crowd. Yeah. But I found it very sort of, there wasn't a soul in the match.
Yes.
It was just a crowd, and it was just there. There wasn't a vibe. I don't know if you felt that. Watching it on television, I was going, okay, decent crowd, but where's the noise? Where's the cheering? Where's the backing of the teams? Yeah, there was a little group of Pirates fans, there was a little group of Moroccan fans, maybe 50, 100 of them on either side. And that was it. The rest were, I think, pure spectators that had probably been given tickets to go and fill up the stadium. Yeah. And I think if you're going to have that, I don't think that's a good advert for the game either. I think crowd is part and parcel of our football. And you go all over the world, South America, Europe, whatever, the crowd is what makes Liverpool, is the Kop, and so on. And you go to Real Madrid and so on. And I think it's important to have a crowd. So I still believe that the home and away scenario is probably the way to go, because it engages the people, it brings the atmosphere into the stadium. I know it becomes a little bit more difficult when we're adding another game onto the program, but you saw what happened in Nigeria. Yes, Nigerians are great football fans, but there was no atmosphere. So you might as well play in an empty stadium, And of course, you also don't get enough people traveling to go. I mean, they do it in Europe. So we try, again, we're making the mistake of copying Europe. We're quick to criticize Europe, but we're very quick to copy. And we play in a neutral venue, like the Champions League final is going to be played in a neutral venue. But in Europe, there's enough fans to travel 45 minutes by train, bus, aeroplane, and to fill up the stadiums. We don't have that facility in Africa, and we'll never be able to do that. So to get so many Moroccans across to Nigeria and so many South Africans across to Nigeria to go and is not going to happen. But what happened to Ahly now, having to play the team from Morocco in Morocco, I think it's very unfair. And I think because of that, I certainly hope Ahly can surprise him a little bit and get a result. But it's a little bit harsh. I think it should have gone home and away. But having said that, look, the team who plays second at home has a slight advantage. I think we all know that. And that's why the seedings come into play. If you've got a higher seeding, you play second, or otherwise it must be a draw. But it's part of the game, home and away. It's got to continue.
Coach Cavin, we've seen Coach Roger did it in 2013. Coach Eric did it in 2015. And I think he subsequently did it with Supersport United as well, going to the final of the Confed. Coach Gavin Hunt did it in last year. And now this time around, we had Coach Fadlu Davids and Mandla Nkazi going to the final of the continental competition. And Coach Pito as well won it in 2016. Do we see South Africa being dominant in these continental competitions going forward? Or based on what you guys are saying about how seriously the competition is taken, West Africa, North Africa, we still have a very long way to go?
I think we have the capability to be dominant in Africa, because we do profess to have the best league in Africa, one of the best. But we need to be, I think, a little bit more hungry. And Roger said it as well. The financial backing has to come from the corporates to back our teams, to back our players, to go to these areas. And at the same time, the owners of the particular clubs have to back themselves as well to get to these levels. Because, the personnel have been there. Well, Roger's been there, I've been there, Eric's been there, Gavin's been there, Mandla and Fadlu have been there now. So there's a good few of us that have been there and know exactly what to do to get to those areas of competition. Yeah, I think we can do it in the future.
I'll add to that, because having been in Egypt now and listening to the players, you said, can we be dominant or not? I think we can be dominant to a certain extent. Of course, if we get the crowds back, we got the atmosphere back and things like that. Because when you ask the guys up there in Egypt, do you want to go play in Nigeria or do you want to go play in South Africa? They all tell you, we want to go to South Africa. Do you want to go to Congo or do you want to go play in Johannesburg? No, we'll go to Johannesburg. It's obvious. This is a destination that all African countries want to come to. No different with us. If you say to us, listen, do you want to play a team from Egypt or do you want to go play in the Congo? We'll say, I'd rather go to Egypt. We know you're going to get a decent hotel, a good stadium. Yeah, the game might be a little bit tougher, but I think the competition outside the field is easier to control and to handle. Okay, so South Africa does have an attraction, and it has been already recognized all over Africa that it has got the Sundowns and the Orlando Pirates and the Kaizer Chiefs. They all know that. When I was in Egypt now, a lot of the players spoke to me about the 2013 team of Orlando Pirates. They could name half the team. They knew all the players. And that shows you how much impact it's already made. Yeah. Can we continue with it or not? I think that's going to be the key factor here. And I think we do need a little bit of support from, he said, corporates, maybe government, maybe the association, the federation. I think there's got to be a little bit of impetus from those factors to encourage the clubs to go for it. Because these clubs are going to go into these competitions. I had it when I was at Wits. We were a small club at the time without the backing of Bidvest, and we went to play in Africa. It stuffed up our bank account. Yeah. You know, we straight away had to sell 2 or 3 players the following season to stay afloat. And that is where I think the clubs are going to need the assistance.
Now, having said that, what is it that a Pirates and a Chiefs, having seen, they've tasted the glory to a degree in these competitions, but there's a level of inconsistency that they have, unlike a Mamelodi Sundowns, who are always in these competitions, getting knocked out either in the semi-finals or the quarterfinals, but they do make it a point to go as far as possible in these competitions. You spoke about the big clubs in this country. You cannot leave out Chiefs and Pirates alongside Mamelodi Sundowns when we speak about big clubs, but they're not really quite there yet. With the season that's coming, one might play in the competition, one might not play in the competition. But the ones that do get to play in the competition, what is it that they need to do now in order to prep themselves for the season that's upcoming, to a point we spoke about earlier on, where you are actually able to balance the two?
Yeah, I think Roger will tell you that when he was in the Champions League final, it was 2013, Roger.
Yeah.
And since then, Pirates have only come into the Confederation Cup now. You have to be consistent, and if Roger was there, yes, they let Roger go, but the team was still there. Yeah. And what did team change, and you've got to be consistent as far as that's concerned. When you look at Ahly in the last 3 seasons, they've been consistent in getting the best players that were available in Egypt. And like I say, with that comes a lot of the history that playing for Ahly. It's important that the players know that.
Yeah.
But before then, Ahly was in a hole as well. They were going out in the quarterfinals. They were going out in the group stages. They were not hitting the right how can I say, company,
Yes.
which is the team. They were not hitting the right company in order to go to the next level. And then they brought in a lot of other people besides the coaches. They brought in other people because they wanted to emulate what Jose Manuel done for two Champions League trophies, you know what I'm saying, and 5 local trophies like Sundowns and they wanted to emulate that. So they brought in a new technical director, they brought in new assistant coaches, they brought influential Egyptian people to help from behind. Whereas if you take Roger De San now to Sundowns, the people say, no, he's going to take the job. He's not coming to take the job. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or director of football, they say, no, director in waiting. We have this little things that we talk about. And immediately when that happens, people start wondering whether their work is quality, yes or no. No. You got to take the man to a team to help the team grow. And when the team grows, who's the scouting? Are they bringing the right player in to go into Africa? Because when you're in Africa, you know we can only sign 5 foreigners. They have to be the best.
Yeah.
They have to be the best. They have to be so good that once they play 2 games, someone in Europe wants them. If you look at it like that,
Yeah.
because then you're fighting, and you got to fight all along the way, all the time to get there. I mean, just an example. Who was the first team to beat Ahly in South Africa in 50 years? Do you know that?
It was
The first team.
The first team. Yeah.
The first team.
Was it not Orlando Pirates?
No.
Mamelodi Sundowns?
No.
No. You know.
It was him.
You understand?
Yeah.
In 50 years, we were the first team to beat, which was Platinum Stars. No one gave us any credit. Roger will know. No one said this team, and they were the generation of Jose Manuel, Abu Trecha, Goma, the goalkeeper. That was the team. They were. I think there was 9 Egyptian national players in that team.
They still have
They
about
still,
12 now.
They got,
But
they got
anyway.
about 12 now, yeah. So that was the team. We went to Egypt blind.
Yeah.
We went to Egypt blind. We beat them 2-1 here. We knew going to Egypt, Cairo, beautiful stadium, like Roger says. We had a chance.
Yeah.
We had a chance, but nobody said go there and do it like this. You can come back. The Egyptians are out. You have a chance to go further. So we need, and I say this in front of him,
Yeah.
you need to dig his head. You need to appreciate what he has in his head and what he can offer you. You need to do that.
Which was actually going to be my closing question to the both of you. What advice would you give to those top 4 teams? Well, we don't know now because the league is not concluded. We can give Sundowns the advice, it's fine, because we know definitely them. But the other 3 that are fighting for a spot in continental football, you as people that have traveled the continent, you probably know the corner of the African continent in and out. What advice would you give to those that are probably going to be walking the path for the first time, or those that have walked the path but somehow stumbled across the way?
Scratch the heads of the people that have been there. Give them the respect they deserve, and don't offer them the millions that everybody think you're capable of earning, because they're there to give you, they're there to part their experience and to help South Africa get where everybody says we are, and we know we're near. And like Roger says, everybody wants to come to South Africa. We are the best country on the continent. If you look at infrastructure, if you look at facility, even if you look at players, we have some of the best in the world.
Yeah.
But to get out there and to go play in the Congo, Roger will tell you, it's not easy. It's difficult, and you've got to do it a certain way. If you can't do it a certain way, then rather don't go.
Scratching your head, Mr.
I think there's a few things that you said earlier on about, are we ready for it? Do we want to compete in Africa and this and that? And I think there's an answer to this question. I think one of the things we have a problem with is our national team doesn't compete. So our public has become very much in-house. I think if our national team had success with other national teams and had qualified and won things, and I think we would have opened our minds a little bit more to the outside of our country. I think we're just so focused in our own PSL, our little top 8 and our Nedbank Cup and this and that, and we're forgetting that there's a whole continent. So we want to reach the World Cup without winning your continent. That's the one thing we're trying to do. That's the one part I think we're lacking. But going back to what you're saying, how do you prepare? I think the clubs have to make a conscious decision. Do we want to compete in this competition, or must we just fulfill the fixture? Because that's the mistake they make. If they go, you can't be half pregnant. You can only be fully pregnant, okay? So there's no such thing as a half pregnancy. You either are pregnant or you're not pregnant. So in this scenario, it's the same thing. Okay, we're going in, so let's go in it. It's going to cost you R1 million a game, and you've got to be prepared for it. And if you're going to go for it, then you've got to have the R1 million in the safe. You've got to have the million in the bank. Well, not a million. You've got to have a few because you've got to play a few matches. Yeah. Otherwise, rather send in the kids and get out. Because what it takes out of your team, you're going to feel it. And you feel it for the next 1, 2, 3 seasons.
Gentlemen, you have imparted a lot of knowledge. Thank you very much, Coach Cavin Johnson. And to you as well, Coach Roger Desar. Thank you very much for joining us on the Sisonke Diski Chat.
It's a pleasure.
All right, cool. You at home as well, thank you very much for joining us on the season finale of the Sisonke Diski Chat. We will be taking a break, like the league is taking a break, and we should see you at the start of the 2022-2023 DStv Premiership season. Until then, take care, and we'll see you on the other side.